No. I shook my head, flushing. Really, it's fine. You don't need to talk to them. They'll believe me. Believe me about how I saw your walls of information and that you thought the clock was a key to something. What is it a key to? I felt nothing but fear as she fiddled with her hair, placing a bobby pin in her mouth and grinning through clenched teeth. Okay then, she finally spoke, placing the pin back in place. Let me know if there's anything I can do, other than tell you that the key is to a black canister outside, something that holds the answers. Enjoy your workday where you may be tortured to see if you're still in a pattern. They will be checking to see if you keep going with the pattern or break. If you break, we both die. Right, I snapped back to attention. I'll see you later, right? Right? Can you not say anything else after this point since you didn't talk last time? What am I supposed to do if I'm in a situation I don't remember? What happens if I break a pattern I don't know? She quickly turned and strode away, heels clacking silently on the carpet. She was shaking. She's a ghost hunter, I had to mutter to myself as I shook my head. Oh fuck. My breaths were shallow and ragged, the air heavy and filled with the distinct musk of death. The main staircase appeared twice as long as usual, either the world distorted into a nightmarish alternate reality, or finally revealing its true self. The gray carpet beneath may have once been adorned with elegant patterns and bright hues, but now kicked up dust and grime as I hesitantly began to walk. The ceiling above me softly whistled with wind, snowflakes drifting down from rotted rafters exposing the sky above. The floorboards beneath my feet creaked and bowed, ravenous rot smelling like an entire city of decay lay beneath them. Clanking dishes met me as I hesitantly peered through the sliding door, my eyes falling on my hat on the hat rack. The fabric was worn and rusted, caked in blood. I nervously reached out to grab it. Sorry. I turned to the rest of the kitchen, my gaze dropping as only some of the patrons within met my gaze. They all looked like haunted specters, creaking limbs working them through the motions of upkeeping a kitchen despite absolutely nothing getting done. Frostbitten, gnarled hands scraped at broken plates with sponges that crawled with bacteria and fungus. They all bared horrific bite marks like something partially digested, some of them with empty hands clearly meant to be clutching at food that had long since rotted away. Haze's Cheeto flashed in my mind. One of the last pieces of real food left in this place. My heart dived, words escaping me as I frantically tried to recollect them. Miss Borden had some questions for me. I didn't realize it was this late. Miss Borden? Roy staggered into view from around the corner, tossing me a single moldy egg, long since having sprouted fungal spores and decayed into a black rock. Holy shit, what kind of questions? Classic excuse. Sylvia waved her bloody hands, clutching steel wool as her pot crashed into a sink without any water. I don't buy it, cuz. Her hands scrubbed at nothing, only a pile of shattered dishes lining the grimy sink bed. Snow softly drifted down from the decimated roof to settle over everything. Her black hair was coated in frigid flakes, and unlike the other figures around, she stared directly at me. "What kinds of questions?" I hesitated as I caught the egg sloppily and accidentally held on to my gloves. "I'm not sure." I flinched, looking down at my hands. Shit. Was it too late to pretend to drop them? Wasn't that a big point? Since Sylvia and I even had to come back for them, I was definitely messing up the pattern. The figures seemed to glaze over, not physically stopping, but looking almost as if a bad theater cast was told to hold still. Their dead eyes still blinked, but their uncanny synchronization made me sweat bullets. I dropped the gloves to the ground. She was just talking about general room stuff, I silently pleaded. Trouble with the heater and whatnot, I guess. Jesus. Well, glad you made it through that. Royce slowly churned back into motion, stealing a look to Sylvia, who returned it with narrowed eyes. I probably wouldn't have been able to keep my cool. I hope she doesn't talk to me. Her hair fell in front of her face. God, I can't wait until they just leave. I can't believe Cheryl agreed to let him stay here. Royce nodded. Are we really that much of sellouts? Wait, huh? I blinked, terror creeping up inside me as I fought to remember everything. What do you mean? What's wrong with them being here? Well, not them. Sylvia's hand fell down from the sink, plate shattering against the floor. You're right. I guess it's just her. The lights of the room snuffed out as if encroached over by dense fog. Sylvia softly bent down to grab a plate shard. Haze? I replied carefully. I still don't get it. I don't know anything about her, but she seemed... nice. Royce looked at me in a way I had never seen before. A sort of distrust that nearly knocked me off my feet. His eyes were unfocused and dim, the lacerations across his skull spilling tendons to the murky floor. John, dude. He slurred, limp jaw barely able to hold in his rotting tongue. I can't tell if you're joking. Whoa, wait, what? I quickly retracted my last claim. She seemed a little... I don't know. I don't understand what's wrong. Royce split in half with a ghoulish squelch of toxic air, muscles and bloated organs sloshing against the dark ground where Sylvia's bare feet stepped. You tell me. Sylvia's eyes saw nothing as they stared into the distance, broken hands lifting like a marionette. Of course, no one can really prove anything, but anyone with eyes can see she's a compulsive liar. The things she's done are disgusting. The things she's told you. Disgusting. I felt my legs slowly backpedaling despite my best attempts. What the heck do you mean? Like she speaks of things no one else should be able to. Sylvia stabbed her hand against the wall to hold herself upright, legs rotting beneath her. Always to further some agenda. For them. What is it you were sent here for? L. Dahmer. Royce's corpse slithered on the ground, hand snapping against my leg. She... My heart froze, further words strangling from my throat. Oh fuck. What was I supposed to say? How could I remember every word? She has leukemia? I finally finished out at the last second, blood filling with ice. No, she fucking doesn't! Sylvia hissed, hand against my throat in seconds, jagged plate shard cutting into my windpipe. The foul stench of decomposition seared against my flesh, her eyes long receded into her skull as noxious sludge slithered across her teeth. That's the thing, she continued. Do you remember yesterday? Do you remember what you came here for, L. Dahmer? I can't believe you guys. I strained in agony as frigid wind howled through Sylvia's sockets. The plate felt like a hot fire poker being dragged through flesh. Royce now stood partially upright with his mangled anatomy. Shadows loomed in on the kitchen, scuttling overhead audible through the ceiling pipes. What the hell is the matter with you? I wheezed out as Sylvia pressed the plate closer. She doesn't need to prove it. No one should need to prove something like that. Is this some kind of... What is it, some conspiracy theory? There's nothing convenient about blood cancer. Jesus Christ. Sylvia stepped back, teeth baring as black fur brushed past her legs just out of view. Metal jingled. The tension in the air was palpable, Sylvia's distorted hand gripping the plate shard so hard what was left of her flesh flaked away like paper. My heart was slamming against my ribcage hard enough to make my vision blur. Sylvia was about to... I remembered what happened next. I wasn't going to be able to handle this. What was I supposed to do? Without another beat, Sylvia's broken form slashed forwards. I flinched despite my best efforts, watching as the shard stopped, inches from my eye. Sylvia was frozen solid, eyes fixed on mine, as a wicked grin crawled up her face. Oh, her voice crawled out. What was that? Scared of something? My heart skipped every other beat, my mind running so fast I could feel myself overheating. Excuses and thoughts swirled through my head, each one appearing more rash than the last, time running out faster than I could sort through them. Sylvia's grin widened across the chasm of her face, looming forms in my peripheries growing ever closer. What the fuck was I supposed to do? If I jumped to my next line, maybe I could skip this interaction altogether, or if I altered the conversation just enough to deflect her without making myself known. No, wait. I willed myself to focus my thoughts. This was a trap. The only thing I could say was nothing. I had to wait until my turn. Continuing to my next line or ad-libbing here was the only misstep I could make. The grin slowly faded from Sylvia's face, the longer the silence continued, her hands readjusting her grip on the blade. Dark sludge fell from her lips, vile head cocking to the side. Without another beat, Sylvia's broken form slashed forwards. The world blurred with red and black as a shard scraped along the inside of my skull, pile-driving my head into the wall behind me. Do you remember yesterday, Elle? She repeated, slowly twisting the object. Bone grated against bone, my vision bulging and warping with the movement. pale hands peeled back ceiling tiles, howling faces pressing grinning smiles through the woodwork. I was certainly in no danger of saying anything wrong. There was no air left in my lungs, anguish sapping the energy from my legs immediately. I fought to remain upright, utterly in shock as the shard twisted slowly. My lack of energy was soon not a problem as Sylvia's hand slammed my neck further up against the wall. Hell. The ghoulish form in front of me repeated at agonizing length, blood spurting to the tiles below as the fragment corkscrewed bits of flesh to the floor. My mind flashed back to Haze's appearance on several occasions. Just how many times had she dealt with this? Silence ensued. No one blinked as my fingers curled in on themselves, my lungs abandoning frantic, gasping breaths of pain in favor of encroaching darkness. Slowly, Sylvia's face split with a fresh wound. Curious, her words slithered out. My mistake. She snapped her fingers. The lights flickered. Listen. Roy stepped in, lights flooding back into the room as the chilling alterations faded. John, man, it's okay. You're right. Obviously, no one can be sure one way or the other. It's unfair of us to demand proof, and maybe she is telling the truth. His eyes again glanced nervously to Sylvia. But the fact that they don't make the test results public after being asked to is pretty telling on its own. He looked downtrodden as if telling me my puppy had died. And she's been proven to have lied about things like that in the past. That's all we're saying. It really feels like her being here is suggesting we forgive her for that kind of stuff. I gagged for breath between each look, tears and blood streaming down my face as my burning legs shuddered. I could barely see Royce or Sylvia, everything warped and tinted red. I fought endless blackness. Jesus, I don't believe it. And somehow everyone seems to freaking forgive her. Sylvia seethed. The media is all over her 1 minute, but she agrees to do one stupid interview in that slutty pink dress of hers, and everyone forgets about it the next day. She talks so smooth, you can just feel the manipulation laced in, even when she's pretending to be cute and flustered. It's honestly disturbing. Blood speckled the floor. God, I staggered. I don't know what to say. I didn't get any of that from talking to her, but I guess I don't really know her either. I didn't know her. Well, either way, Royce tried to lighten the mood. You'll be happy to know Mark got started on the hedges earlier this morning before he had to go, so your work is already partially done. Cool, then you can help me in here sooner. Sylvia grinned. Too many people using too many dishes in this place. Right. I feigned a smile, crushing relief flooding me as I remembered this was my last line for a while. Thanks, Royce. See you soon, Sylvia. I went to leave before a grisly chill washed over me. I stopped dead in my tracks, feeling the moldy egg in my hand. I was supposed to have eaten it by this point of the conversation. By the time I again felt Sylvia encroaching in my peripheries, I knew I was far too late. Not hungry? Her voice slithered out, grin split across her entire face. I whirled around just in time to watch her hack the shard at my neck before... Crack. A blur of silver shuddered through the space, emanating a percussive shockwave of gore as Sylvia's head was dented down the middle, nearly cleaved in two. Her body staggered uselessly before another hack slammed it to the floor. "If you're counting, that's an uncountable number of times now," Haze hissed, heaving the shovel down on Sylvia's neck to completely decapitate the thrashing corpse. "I save your ass one more time and you owe me a fucking soda." Her hand whipped around mine, yanking me out of the kitchen and into the main lobby. "You suck at this," she continued, heaving back the shovel as Aunt Cheryl looked up from her luggage pile. "How hard is it to say some words correctly, exactly?" Cheryl's body barely moved before it slopped across the tiles in two pieces, the rusted metal of the shovel cleaving through the rotten carcass like butter. "I'm kind of fucking new to all this," I hissed, feeling chilling wind rush inside to greet us as Haze put her whole body weight against the wooden slabs of the front entrance. "Give me a break." Snow dotted the outside air, my breath curling out like fog. All was eerily silent as we ran, the world wrapped in a suffocating shroud of mist and frost. Only our footsteps dared penetrate the void, crunching loudly behind us as we made our way around the property. "Well, to be fair, it's not all your fault," Haze nodded. "I half figured they'd turn on you anyway, hence my good timing. I kinda screwed you by breaking your dumb clock." She fished around in her pocket before throwing a mangled hunk of metal behind herself. The clock had several holes punched in it, torn inside out. It landed in the snow and was immediately lost forever. Without being able to reset the pattern, Haze continued running, dragging me along. AKA you stupidly returning that fucking thing to your room. Pattern cycle day 2 was never going to reset correctly. I bet you could have done everything perfectly and that place still would have torn you apart. Nothing is going to repeat from now on. We're in uncharted territory now. Anyone under its influence will be lost forever. "So even you don't know what's gonna happen next?" My mouth fell open. "Wasn't that our one advantage? And fucked if I know anything, but weren't you the one to say never break a pattern?" Silhouetted mountains in the distance gazed on with indifference, the flakes of jagged, drifting snow already accumulating on the ground. "Until I knew which one to break." She raised an eyebrow, fishing something else out of her pocket. A small, silver key. The snowflakes around us were winding to a slow stop, wind soon replaced by the ominous hum of the canister, as I imagined its snow-coated shell through the suspended razor-like flakes. "I knew this canister held something important," she spoke quickly, gesturing ahead. "Something that would explain what is happening to us here. According to my notes, I spent nearly 2 years just searching for it alone, only to find that it needed a key." She gripped the key tighter, looking to me with a confident tone that felt forced over fear. "I knew the key would be hidden in something that would greatly affect the world around us." We slid in the slushy snow. "My notes, everything I've been working towards, end with finding this key. I warned myself over and over not to proceed to unlocking the canister until I was ready to never go back." She looked away. "I still don't know how much you remember." She narrowed her eyes. "But you were there with me for a lot of that, off and on. And now that you're here for real, I'm ready to never go back. I don't want to live those days ever again." My heart fell as I finally saw a bump in the snow near the hedges where I had flung the canister. All of the plants around the manor were overgrown and malformed, but in a circle. Around the dormant canister, nothing seemed to grow at all. The leaves that had been there just a day ago had wilted away into black shrivels, disease leaching in a far-reaching area of influence. Okay, that's sweet and all, but stop pretending this is making any sense. I felt the warmth seeping from my skin the more the wind tore at our clothes. Who hid the key in the first place? What the fuck is happening to those people inside, and how exactly will opening this inanimate object help us? I know this isn't really the time, but you're glossing over a whole heaping fuckload of shit, least of all being that we're apparently fucking dead already. I swallowed hard, nausea flashing to reclaim my heart as we finally scrambled to a stop in front of the object. I know. Haze shook her head. I don't remember as much as I pretend to, Elle. I have faint memories and delusions both mixed into the same hand. All I know is when something is in a pattern it can't touch, the canister can't move it, to them it stings like radiation, like a poison. For all I know, opening this is a bad thing. But it's all I have. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is everything I've ever known. 3 days with you in this fucking nightmarescape, repeated endlessly. I promised myself it ends here. It has to. I turn this key. The nightmare ends. Oh. My voice fell numb, mind grinding to a halt. And if it doesn't? She didn't speak. But that's when another sound slithered through the dead air, like something muted and far away, yet carrying the breath of a whispered voice pressed against my ear. A howl. Not a hallucination or atmospheric noise this time. It came from something physical. A dread unlike anything I had ever before experienced slithered up my back with debilitating tremors, fear overtaking my ability to move. Haze strangled to a stop as well. I had never seen hope so quickly drain to darkness. The stench of rotting meat began to blister like heat waves despite the stinging cold, raw gusts of desert air churning up from the dirt. The howl sounded again, this time even more incapacitating in its foulness. A rotten, warped scream that was less human than animal, more dead than alive. The manor fell away completely into the mist, draining away like ink in a vat of black water. My arm began stretching apart as gore flowed down it. I felt the cold press of several more marks distending across my body. In my peripheries, Haze's blurry silhouette bent unnaturally, contorting like a pretzel under the weight of something unseen. Her wounds skewed open, skin snapping into wet strands as it shredded away. The key in her palm glimmered sharply, my eyes finally wrenching to face her. Just in time to watch the scars across her neck split open like a can of putrid worms, long since rotted blood pilling out in sloppy waves. She tried to force out a word, just a single word, but her air was cut off. Her shoulders slid away as her neck cleaved under the weight of her toppling corpse. Her hand contacted mine just as my own arm fell away to the snow, the key slipping from both our grasps and plummeting into the deep crystalline needles. The last expression on Haze's face was fear beyond what I can describe, a despair so complete it numbed me to my core. And her face stayed like that, stitched in place while the rest of her dissolved in stomach acid that seemed to spill from herself. And yet, her fingers still twitched, lidless eyes rotting with filth as I saw my own midsection begin to bruise apart with rapidly forming tooth marks. Haze's severed hand flicked into the snow, a sparkle barely visible in the warping air as the key slid across the white void before being lost again. But this time it wasn't lost. I strained my one good hand forwards to come up with a twisted pile of ash, gore, and snow, the faint cold press of metal scarcely recognizable between my fingers. The howl ripped out again, though now something towered in the near distance. A black shape, hideously daunting in stature and speed as ash kicked up behind it. The canister bled needles into my skin as I shook decrepit snowflakes from it, watching the way it peeled my fingers back from its surface, forcing skin beneath itself and bones to curl away like candle flames. My vision speckled with black dots, atonal humming vibrating my view back and forth like an out-of-alignment projector. Again and again the key glanced off the padlock or stuck halfway in, stripping against the rusted chamber with no result. The creature's footsteps began to thunder through the frozen void, warm, ruby liquid melting the snow around me to reveal scattered bones beneath, a graveyard of screaming souls. I wouldn't look at Haze's form as it writhed, wasn't even sure if my eyes were still open at all before suddenly... a click. My hand snapped sideways, buzzing cutting to nothing. A foul pressure release left long dormant air to rush from the canister's heavy lid. Everything cut out.